Welcome back, guys. Welcome back, guys. Welcome back. Welcome back. It's your boy DELRAY Richardson, platinum artist, platinum songwriter, Straight Game TV. Thank you for tuning in. I appreciate your time. Do me a favor. Click on what appears to be that little bell notification. Thumbs up. If you have not subscribed to the channel, please subscribe to the channel. And like I said, hit the bell notification if you would like to be one of the first people notified when I drop some of this straight game. I'm going to be broadcasting live, giving you live updates as to what's going on in the moment. So like I said, I appreciate you. And we're going to wait for some more people to come in. Very much appreciated. Absolutely. So I'm going to put it in the chat. Everything that's going on, I'm going to put it in the chat so that you can, rehash this as well as read it out to you loud as to the updates and what's going on with this situation involving Cassie on the stand at this particular time. This is very captivating. I'm wondering how the prosecution is going to get her to lead up to. Right now, basically, she's saying that the situation with Sean P. Diddy Combs at the particular time, Cassie basically, she describes her early relationship with Combs as marked by insane jealousy and uncertainty. During opening statements on Monday, the U.S. Attorney Emily Johnson highlighted jealousy as a driving force in the early dynamics between Cassie and Sean P. Diddy Combs. Cassie testified that at the start of their relationship, she was insanely jealous. So Cassie admits that she was jealous, which attributed to her youth and inexperience. She said, I was super young. I didn't really understand who he was. She said, referencing Combs' own words, I'm Puff Daddy. Puff Daddy has many rules, likes the company of women. Over time, Cassie believed that their relationship had become monogamous, and he expected that of me, so I assumed it was the same. She explained. Combs, she testified, assured her, I'm not dealing with anyone else, just you. So Puffy basically told Cassie that at one time, the relationship and them going on, that he wasn't dealing with anybody else but her at that particular time. It goes on. Cassie said the longest freak off with Combs lasted about 4 days. And she basically said became a job. This is what she's saying. Cassie's saying that the longest freak off that she had with Sean P. Diddy Combs lasted 4 days. It became a job. Just before court broke, Cassie testified that the longest so-called freak off she participated in with Sean Diddy Combs lasted 4 days. The freak offs became a job, she said, explaining that many of the encounters spanned 36 to 48 hours. She described needing time to recover afterwards due to extreme dehydration, exhaustion, and drug use. So Cassie admits to drug use, and like I said, she said the longest freak off lasted about 4 days, and they would usually last anywhere from 36 to 48 hours. She testified too. We waiting for him to come back from court. From lunch. And when they come back from lunch, we'll be able to, give you some more updates as to what's going on, so that the chat, what's up, Sticky Fingers, what's good? So that the chat can review this later. Yeah, this is interesting, man. I want to see what the prosecution actually is going to do. Carla Shepard, what's good? What's happening? And as a matter of fact, like I said, I'll do it like this for all of the people who are in the chat, and we can do it like this. So everybody can see what's going on. Andrea, what's good? So yeah, this is very interesting. Hill, greetings, greetings. New York City in the building. What's good? What's good? Thank you. I appreciate you. Appreciate you. We just waiting for him to come back from lunch, ladies and gentlemen. Cassie been testifying so far this morning. Um, she also testified that Diddy introduced her to ecstasy, like one of the first times that they had a sexual encounter. She said that Diddy introduced her to ecstasy, um, and they were on a yacht in Miami when they first got together. From that perspective, so yeah, this is very interesting, man. I had to come on here, and give up the live updates. What's happening? What's happening, Jarlis? It's all good. Andrea, P Funk, what's happening, P Funk? Yeah, this is gonna be this is deep. It seems to me like what they're doing is, I mean, right now it seems like their sex life is on display. I don't see anything else other than what's happening in the courtroom right now, from what they're talking about. Um, Basically, she was saying like after a Vegas trip, Diddy started inviting her to hotels. Like I said, the longest freak off, she said, lasted about 4 days. She said she was dehydrated and needed time to recover from the drug use and all of the things that were going on from that perspective. Um, like I said, she said that, it's basically saying that Diddy introduced her to ecstasy. Um, she took the ecstasy. I can't, once again, she's what they're trying, I guess what they're trying to frame Cassie as this young, inexperienced girl, whom which she was dealing with Diddy at the time that they met. He was like 17 years older than she was. Um, and like I said, she basically saying that she really didn't understand um, what was going on. She also stated that Diddy had rented her an apartment for her birthday uh, in Manhattan, right around the corner from where he lived. So they didn't live together, and he had keys to her place, as well as he rented her apartment out here in Los Angeles, in which he had keys to her place, and he would pop up periodically, um, you know, unannounced and so on and so forth. I mean, when you think about that, that's what you. I mean, if somebody taking care of you, they feel like that they can do what they want to do when they want to do it. You know what I mean? If they paying the rent, they can come in when they want to, uh, you know, leave when they want to, or stay the night, or even put you out if they want to, because they paying the bills there. You know how that go. So yeah, we just waiting for him to come back from court. I mean, from lunch. Um, Cassie is noticeably she's pregnant, and say she's cried a few times, wiping tears from her eyes, and putting her hand on her belly. You know what I mean? From that perspective, I guess the stress could be stress. I guess reliving all of this, all of the trauma that she went through in dealing with this situation. Like I say, by no um, mistake of anybody's imagination, Diddy is not a nice person. Let's put it that way. Diddy's not a nice person. You know what I mean? Like I said, how he was treating her as far as being violent and the domestic violence aspect of the relationship, you would think all of that player talk and all of that, Diddy run the city and all of this, stuff that they were spewing in the rap songs, people tend to come to believe that. But in this situation, that's not what it was about. It seems like Diddy was extremely insecure. He was extremely insecure, and it seemed like the money didn't do anything but make him worse. You know what I mean? I guess certain things you can and you can't control with money, and I don't think that Cassie was one of the things that he could actually control with money, to a certain extent. Like I said, how they're trying to paint it is you know, she said over time, Cassie said over time that Diddy became more and more jealous and sometimes violent, right? So yeah, it's crazy. Tell me what you guys think in the chat. Give me your feelings, man. Like I said, you can ask any kind of questions, man, and I'll definitely try to communicate. Yeah, this is some crazy shit, right? It's crazy as hell, man, when you think about it. And they also tried to, and this is a common thing in the music industry. Like, you know, even we seen when Tupac died, they still had songs that they hadn't released yet, right? So the prosecution basically is saying that you know, the jealousy that they were citing as far as Cassie was concerned. In the beginning, she said she was jealous, and they asked her about her the albums and the records that were supposed to come out, and it's not uncommon that, you know, when somebody puts a record out, there's a lot of other songs that don't make it out. You know what I mean? So they're basically trying to formulate this theory that, you know, she was there just for, you know, to be handed off in freak offs. Basically, that's basically what they're trying to say. But you know, Cassie in her testimony, she's basically not really. She said they were in a relationship, and she was hoping that they were in a monogamous relationship, but she found out later on that that wasn't true, and that even in the beginning, Diddy let her know that, you know what, I like to be in the presence of ladies, and so I don't see how that's, you know, yeah. It would say Green Boy says she's not innocent. No, like I said once again in the live that I did yesterday, um, you know, the guy Daniel Phillips, he basically said that when he came to the door, I believe for the first time that they, you know, had whatever they considered a freak off, that Cassie was the one that gave him like $3,000 in the beginning, and then gave him like three more $1,000 when they got finished. And so most people would say, well, Diddy gave her the money. Well, that's not how things work. If you want to work it like that, a lot of people do try to work it like that. But if you want to try to work it like that and say, hey, well, he gave her the money to do it, you know, yeah, you can give somebody money to go buy drugs too. But if they go buy the drugs and it's an undercover police officer, or they go sell drugs, you may have gotten the drugs from somebody else. If it's an undercover police officer and you purchasing drugs from them, and they know you buy big quantities, it don't matter where the money came from. You were the person doing that, and say the only way that you can get out of that is somehow, some way, flipping on the other person and telling them, hey, you know, this is not my money, I got this from this person. Well, would you be willing to wear a wire, or would you be willing to testify against that person in regards to that? So like I said, when you said yeah, you getting charged, absolutely, R Hill, you know what I mean? So like I said, I don't know how they're fundamentally trying to duck around certain situations, as they've been telling us for years that this is how the laws apply. I don't see why it should be different in this case. And like I said, once again, if she paid Daniel Phillips, the guy who was testifying as the escort guy, if she paid him, then she would be complicit in the behavior that Sean P. Diddy Combs is now being charged for. But like I said, we see that the government can make deals with whoever they want to in regards to situations like that. So, yeah, they say, you know, you can bend it, but don't break it, right? You can bend the law, but don't break the law. So, I don't understand. Like I said, at the end of the day, I don't really understand what it is that they're hoping to really show us. It's like I said, that their sex life is on display here. It's like, well, when y'all have sex, and you know, when we're doing the freak offs and all of this, that, and the other. Like I said, all of this information came from her civil lawsuit, and now it's being used criminally, and they're trying to use that tape from the hotel, which was a domestic violence matter, if you will. And so, like I said, at the end of the day, I don't really understand, you know, what they're trying to accomplish with this situation. overall. And like I said, they introduce, and this is the crazy part, because I know they're gonna, the prosecution tried to get ahead, so they introduced, photos of Diddy and Cassie in the early 2000s. You know what I mean? When they first met, um, you know, um, she was talking about how when her and Diddy first were intimate, when they first had sex, and she was like, she was madly in love with him, and so on and so forth. Um, yeah, she said he became controlling over time. It seemed like Diddy was a pretty insecure young man, despite having all of that success and money. Didn't seem like he was the type of person that was really sure of himself, as he would like us to think, you know. Yeah, but like I said, she said the freak off, one of the longest freak off, lasted for 4 days. 4 days. I mean, I don't think 4 days. Like I said, once again, 4 days continuously. No, come on, man. You know what I mean? I understand what she's saying though, like I said, but you know, yeah, like Diddy, he had this, he had a thing. You know what I mean? Like I said, the money turned him out. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. When you say complicit, Edward Green, you don't think so? Yeah, Diddy had a problem, man. Diddy had a problem. But like I said, I mean, it's confirmed that they were boyfriend and girlfriend. I mean, she went everywhere. It wasn't like, it's different, if he hired some kind of worker, a female, or a different female from that perspective. Like I said, this was something that they were into as far as a relationship went. I can't really, once again, you trying to you know, put lipstick on a pig and calling it pretty. You just can't do that. It's still a pig, you know? So, um, she said that after they went to Vegas, it was like a Vegas trip or something like that. She basically said after the Las Vegas trip, um, Sean P. Diddy Combs invited her to hotels in New York where they talk about music and stuff like that. Um, and so she said she eventually had sex with him on a boat during a trip to Miami. And she said that she had wine, and that's when he introduced her to ecstasy. So the first time they ever had sexual relations, uh, Diddy said she said that Diddy had introduced her, or should I say, they taken ecstasy. You know what I mean? Um, yeah. So very interesting. I think she should. I wonder if she should have. She thinks she should have stayed with Ryan Leslie though. You know what I mean? I wonder, does she have any regrets in regards to that? Yeah, complicit and an accomplice, man. Yeah, me too, Carla Shepard. I'm waiting to see that. Yeah, no, what I think what they're trying to do, basically, they're trying to say that she already kind of hinted at it before they went to lunch. She hinted at it. She basically said that you know, they were asking her about the records that weren't released, right? And all of the music and the 9 album, 10 album deal that she was supposed to have with Bad Boy. So they talked about that, and then she began to say that the actual the freak off thing, it became like a job. So my thing is, she said it became like a job. My thing is, if it became like a job, then what was she getting paid? From that perspective. You see what I'm saying? Because when Daniel Phillips testified, he basically said that when he came into the room, she gave him $3,000. That don't sound like a job. That sound like a job to Daniel Phillips, the escort guy. It didn't sound like a job, for her from that perspective. It sounded like something that, you know, like I said, she, because she eventually left Diddy. You know what I mean? And like I said, she had left him on more than one occasion, but she kept going back. The guy, Daniel Phillips, testified yesterday. He basically said that he had asked Cassie, he said, well, why do you stay with this guy if he's so violent? It could be real dangerous for you. And he said that she said that you know, I'm okay. I'm okay. So she evidently she was okay with it to a certain degree for whatever reason. Like I said, we were to believe that this is a prosecution witness and the guy Daniel Phillips, and we're to believe him and what he's saying, then we're to believe that, hey, you know what? When he asked her that question, hey, why you stand with this guy, Sean P. Diddy Combs, when he's so violent, he treats you so bad from that perspective. And she said, he said that she said, quote, I'm okay. I'm okay. I'm all right. You know what I mean? So who are we to go against what she said to him? If we're to believe anything he said, we're to believe everything he said. You know what I mean? We can't, try to take that and break that up into parts and be like, well, you know what? I believe that part, but I don't believe this part. People have a tendency to do that, um, and what they believe and how they feel about certain things. So, and then they talked about how controlling Diddy was, basically. You know, um, you know, she basically said that Diddy paid her rent, and this is a common theme. So let's be clear. The other young lady, there was a young lady who had a child who basically testified to the same thing. You don't have to stay with somebody because they pay your rent. You don't have to stay with somebody. You choose to stay with somebody because they pay your rent, because you find that to be easier, the lifestyle to be better, whether he buying you Louis bags, Birkin bags, Christian Louis Vuitton, whatever, all of the designer things that a man of Diddy stature can afford to do for a woman. Like I said, Cassie said that he paid rent at her apartments close to his residence in New York and later in Los Angeles. And he had his own set of keys to the places and so on and so he had been taking care of her. You know what I mean? And like I said, once again, that right there says she wasn't, because if he was doing all of this, she wasn't living with him. She had her own place, and what she testified that he had keys to from that perspective, right? So if she wanted to leave, she could have left at any time. He paying the rent. There's really you ain't got to worry about breaking the lease. You ain't got to worry about your credit being jacked up or messed up, right? She could leave at any time. The other young lady, the same thing. She said that Diddy had bought her out, rented her a house with her and her child. And so by doing so, she could leave at any time. That's the thing I don't get. Like I said, once again, if we're to look at what they're saying, we're to look at it in totality. Like, look, you don't have to stay here because he's paying your rent. You can leave. Whether you got to go back to your mama's house, to your mama's couch, you know what I mean? Then that's just what you got to do, and from what I understand, it would have been safer doing that than it would have been staying with Diddy, because what they're testifying to is that he was extremely violent. Yeah, he was extremely violent. So, and that's, like I said, that's not taking sides with Diddy. That goes, if any of us to sit here and listen to what's going on and what's being said, we're to look at it from that perspective. If somebody taking care of you and you don't like how they treating you, but you like the little trinkets and gifts and things that they giving you, right? And you feel like, you getting tired of them hitting on you and mistreating you and dating other women and doing all of this stuff and embarrassing you. They didn't live with him. They could get up, leave everything in that place, and go stay with their mama house, go stay at their mama house, their sister house, their cousin house, and all of those things, right? One of the young ladies said that Diddy was giving her like $15,000 a month. I mean, where could she go get a job and do that? But like I said, and taking that money, you got to take what come with that money. You know what I mean? And it all might not be sweet. Like I said, whom much is given, much is required. So, yeah, it's crazy, man. It's crazy. And she said, and Cassie said that as a birthday present, Combs rented her a Manhattan apartment, a few blocks from where he lived. You know what I mean? Yeah, one in Los Angeles, which was the 3-minute drive from his home, and he'd sometimes come over and pick her up in the golf cart, to get from one residence to the other. So he kept her in close proximity, but she didn't live with him. You know what I mean? Like I said, well taken care of. You got an apartment in Manhattan. You got an apartment in LA. You know what I mean? You know, in the home was at Homely Hills area. That's over there where Michael Jackson was renting the mansion at when he died. You know? Yeah, absolutely. I totally understand, Carla. Like I said, it's the choice is yours. The choice is the person who dealing with that situation. You got to make a conscious decision and say, you know what, I'm not dealing with this no more. I'm not gonna be subject to this type of treatment and behavior, from no man based on no amount of money that he's given her at that particular time. But like I said, once again, to get out here and really, and this is the thing, to get out here, and this is how men and women are looked at differently, to get out here and try to really earn a living for yourself. If you a guy, then you lazy as hell, and you ain't, you know what I mean? He don't work, and he ain't got no job, he lazy, all he want to do is sit home and blah, blah, blah. Unfortunately, depending on the woman's looks and her appearance, she's not perceived that way. You know what I mean? You got the bad B syndrome. You know what I mean? Oh my God, she fine and blah, da, da, da. And a man is willing to take care of her. You know what I mean? And do those things. And that's not wrong. But it's wrong for a man to abuse a woman and hit on a woman. Absolutely. He's wrong for that, right? But it's also her choice on whether she wants to stay there. It wasn't like she was being held in the basement, handcuffed to the bed when he left the house, or none of those things. She had a totally separate apartment. And for whatever reason, you know what I mean, that she could think of at that particular time, people say, oh, fear and what he would do and all of that. Well, that wasn't true, because at the end of the day, she ended up leaving anyway, went and got married, had kids. She's pregnant now. You know what I mean? Maybe I think she stayed with him a little too long, if you want to be perfectly, clear about that. Yeah, but Diddy was horrible. Like they say yesterday, when the male worker, sex worker, whatever, when he testified, his kids had to leave the courtroom. You know what I mean? You know. Said, Hill said, I would have not have stayed for the beatings because one of us would be leaving in a body bag. Edward Green, separate living quarters, cash at hand. She could have left and eventually did. That's what I'm talking about. Like I said, once again, when we talk about that, we understand that she could have left, but she didn't. And like I said, for whatever reason, Cassie thought that she should stay with Diddy. She stayed. She stayed, and it's like I said, that's her business. And now, like I said, after the civil case, they turned this into some kind of. But think about it. My thing is this. I'm wondering how far they went into to the situation where did they talk to the guy Daniel Phillips first, right? Or did they go and talk to Cassie and find out what it was? See, because think about it. When they put out the civil case, and they can, the feds read the civil case, they was like, oh, you know what I mean? I don't know if they could go, or they talked to Cassie and she told them like, hey, you know what? The guy name is Daniel Phillips. This is one of the guys that we, kind of invited out into our relationship more than anything. And so when that happened, basically he told them, well, you know what? Cassie had gave me money. You know what I mean? And so did the feds go at Cassie and say, well, look, Daniel's testifying that you gave him money to have, to be with you and Diddy watched and all of that. And did the feds tell her like, hey, well, you know what? Since he did that, then Is it possible that she could be complicit in the same situation? Basically hiring this guy. He came from out of town and he flew from out of town, right? You know, for he said they're saying hiring this guy for prostitution. Well, that would mean if Cassie paid him, then she would be doing the same thing. Like I said, regardless of what people say, oh, well, Diddy gave her the money. What? That's not how that works. He coerced her. How? No, they were in a 10-year relationship. You know what I mean? He bought her apartments. He paid her rent. You know what I mean? He coerced her by paying her rent. You know what I'm saying? Like, you got to think about that. He coerced her to stay in the Manhattan apartment. He coerced her to stay in the Homely Hills, neighborhood, where nothing but 10, 15, $20 million, 60, 70, $80 million mansions. Nah. You know what I mean? So, like I said, that's what Tenny Garagos, Mark Garagos' daughter, who's Diddy's attorney, was basically saying. She's like, okay, cool. Diddy can be held accountable for the domestic violence, but everybody else got to be held accountable for their behavior too. And like I said, we are led to believe that somebody did something and coercing somebody to do something, right? Yeah. So, like I said, once again, yeah, this is crazy, man. Like I said, you know, um, like I said, her testimony is going to be the testimony, I think, um, that ultimately. And so my thing is on cross examination. On Yeah, right. It's so embarrassing, right? On cross examination is where I want to, when the cross examination starts by the defense, is like I said, once again, they can't appear to be coming down too hard on her because she's pregnant. You know what I mean? All the optics of it have to be what it's supposed to be, but the cross examination is going to be it's going to be brutal. It's going to be brutal. It's going to be brutal because, like I said, once again, starting off, did the government offer you any kind of deal? You know, to come here and testify today. So you're here at your own free will. Yeah, right. Edward Green said, wait until the cross, and it comes out that she was orchestrating the freak off. Well, check this out. The guy Daniel Phillips yesterday, he basically said that he got a call from Cassie, right? He got a call from Cassie about it was supposed to be a bachelorette party, right? So he thinking that he coming and he gonna do a strip show for the women, right? He coming to the room, you know what I mean? Think about it. Diddy calling him like, oh, it's a bachelorette party? And no, Cassie called him. So once again, that's what I'm saying about that. She called him, he said, and said it was a bachelorette party. He also testified that she basically said that my husband is not gay, so you don't have to worry about him touching you when Diddy was watching them do what they were doing, right? While he was doing what he was doing. So she said that her husband, they're not married. So she was with the lies and the shenanigans also. Just being clear about, the testimony from yesterday. Yeah, this is so interesting, man. I'm just wondering, the final outcome, like I said, once again, is going to be, because, if you can't, like I said, if you can't meet somebody and fly them into town, or if you like somebody, they may live out of state, you may have been somewhere, you met somebody, you fly them in, and, and somebody could just say anything that you did something to them, and it's believable because, the prosecution wants to, charge you with a crime. Um, You said Miss KP Bailey. What you mean by when he got a surprise? Yeah, or hell, she was. Yeah, well, Daniel Phillips said that. We didn't say that. We don't want to get caught out there saying nothing that ain't necessarily true. You know what I mean? We don't want to get caught out there saying nothing that is not really actually what it's supposed to be. And so, What do you say? See, they're trying to accuse for NBA player Zach Randolph. I don't understand what you mean by Zach Randolph. Well, yeah, like I said, but like I said, more importantly, Diddy set himself up for this situation. He had an opportunity to get in front of this before the case was even filed, and he chose not to. Once again, I think he believed that he was more powerful than he actually was, and this is what you get for jumping on the bed, as they say. You know what I mean? Mama called the doctor, and the doctor said, "That's what you get for jumping on the bed." So he was jumping on the bed, or better yet, letting somebody else jump on the bed, and this is what has happened so far. But the part you said, when she said, you know, Cassie testified that Sean P. Diddy Combs would get abusive over the smallest slights of anything. Like say for instance, and this is why I said he's a horrible individual. You know what I mean? And extremely insecure. You know what I mean about who he was and what he represented as an individual, right? She said Combs would get abusive over the smallest perceived slights. Uh, uh, like if she wasn't smiling at him the way he wanted, or if he thought she was acting like a brat, like I said, if she made the wrong face, yeah, she said that he would smack her. You know what I mean? Cassie said if she didn't respond to his call right away, there would be incessant calls until she did. So, like, say, for instance, she wasn't around him. And this is another thing. Like I said, she was not how they made it seem when they pushed it out there. She wasn't always around Diddy. So if he would call her on the phone and she didn't answer the phone right away, and there would be incessant calls until she did. And then he would employ his security guards to go and look for her. You know what I mean? Like, once again, we're learning a lot about Sean P. Diddy Combs. This is another thing that I was talking about the when Kurt Burrows said that Diddy was jealous of Tupac, right? When Kurt Burrows testified in his civil lawsuit that Diddy was jealous of Tupac, I understand it now. I get it now. You see what I'm saying? I get it. Because if he was this insanely jealous of Cassie, she didn't pick up the phone, didn't call, and all of this stuff, and he's sending security after, you could imagine that the threat that Tupac had posed, and him coming out of prison, and him selling all of these records, and him doing what he was doing, him being successful, being an actor and a musician, and being good at both. You can imagine. See, a lot of people don't show that jealousy, right? But you can imagine from Kurt Burrows having a front row seat to who Diddy really was at that particular time, right? I understand it now, based on what Cassie is saying about if she didn't look at him the right way, if she didn't smile, if she didn't do certain things that he would, put his hands on her. Yeah, he's wrong. He's wrong for that. He's wrong for that. But like I said, once again, I look at the facts as the facts. That's not racketeering. That's not trafficking. You know what I mean? That has to deal with somebody's their ego and their insecurity. If you want to, deal with it from that perspective. Yeah, yeah. Like I said, I don't know what Gene Deal said that Cassie was laughing at Kim Porter when he was abusing Diddy. Like I said, I don't know anything about that. Gene Deal may know about that. Um, yeah, yeah. So like I said, so even though he had all of this money, you know what I mean, it still didn't matter, because money don't make you a man, right? You have to be a man before you're anything else. The brother Andre Taylor, a gorgeous Dre, always talks about this. You know what I mean? Before you're anything else, you have to be a man first, right? And let no woman or anybody dictate how you gonna move about what it is that you're doing from that perspective. We'll say R. Hill said Gene Deal wasn't around for the Cassie days. Like I said, people hear things. I don't know when people say certain things like that. Like I said, I can't speak on, you know, what was going on with Gene Deal, whether he knew or didn't know about what was happening involving Cassie or involving, anybody else for that matter. Like I said, once again, Gene Deal, is going to state what he's going to state based on the knowledge that he has in regards to that situation. And so, yeah, it's crazy, man. So yeah, like I said, what else? Um, like I said, before they went to lunch, Cassie was talking about for most people who don't know, if you came in there, like I said, she said that the longest freak off lasted for 4 days. My thing is this. My thing is this. I want to know how many freak offs in the totality. And like I said, when they get to the number, she's saying, because like I said, they get to the most exciting or should I say salacious part about it, lasted for 4 days. I mean, what was the other 7 days like? Was it 7 days a week? You know what I mean? Or was it, whenever they felt like it or Diddy felt like it or whatever was going on, Yeah, that's the part that I want to know. I want to know, like, how often was this? Because they're making it seem like they're making it seem like uh they're making it seem like it was just going on and on and on and on and on and on, and this is what was going on. Cassie said the freak offs became like a job. You know, I can't really argue with that if that's how she felt. But my thing is, if it became like a job, then how was she getting paid? Because like I said, the guy Daniel Phillips said that when he came in, she paid him. So it sounds like it was more of a job for the guy Daniel Phillips, the sex worker guy. It sounded like it was more of a job for him than it was for Cassie. You know what I mean? Story mode says she was getting paid. What was she getting paid? Story mode. You said, hey, Miss KP Bailey. What she said? Miss KP said, wives say that all the time, laughing out loud. Call in sick. Or he'll say, call in sick. Well, yeah, like yeah, they do. They say it all the time. Like it seemed like it was a job. Dating this person or being with this person. Exotic Beauty say that she believed that Cassie was lining Diddy up from the gate. It said people that attended what the freak off said that they saw her as the ringmaster. Well, the cold part about the game, like I said, and I can't say that speak to any force of somebody coercing somebody. The guy said that when he showed up to the first situation involving him, that Cassie was dressed in like a red wig with lingerie on and red heels. You know, said calling dead. Andrea Bugg said Diddy never exchanged cash. Well, so far so good from the dude Daniel Phillips from what he testified to. I don't know if it's true or not, but what he testified to was that um, Cassie gave him the money, and Cassie promised him a tip after they got finished. You say, with Dear M, you say facts. Now, I believe that because of jealousy of his others were in place. You mean because Diddy had other women that Cassie was jealous? Well, she admitted that she was jealous in the beginning, in the very beginning. So I think that the prosecution wanted to get that out of the way. So that's not a thing. So when they do the cross examination, like they asking her, well, you said that you were extremely jealous of Mr. Combs, and he told you that he liked women, so he told you kind of what he was into. I think they're trying to get that out of the way, so they can't like toot that home. Yeah. I believe that too. Dad Miller TV, Daniel Phillips' testimony shook up the prosecution story about Diddy. Yeah, like I said once again, when he said that, yo, Cassie gave him the money, I think I don't. Well, how you the question is how well that worked on the jury. You know what I mean? How well did that work as far as the jury is concerned? You know, did the jury listen to that, hear that, and take notes on that? He said they wanted the 8 Mile moment. Cassie back on the stand, right? Cassie back on the stand, ladies and gentlemen. Cassie says that she saw Combs and his bodyguard grab guns to confront Suge Knight. Listen, check this out, ladies and gentlemen. This right here, Cassie basically is back on the stand that she said that she saw the bodyguard grab the guns to confront Suge Knight. They have brung Suge Knight now into the case. Suge Knight is doing 28 years in the San Diego prison at this particular time. And Cassie is now testifying that she saw Sean P. Diddy Combs. And see, this is the further implication of the Tupac thing, right? I'm wondering if Pac name gonna come up, but like I said, don't know. Basically, Cassie, and we knew about this from the civil case, but now it's being brought up in the civil case. Cassie's basically saying that she remembers the incident in which Suge Knight, which Combs left her doing a freak off. So she said they were having a freak off, right? Cassie recalled an incident in which Combs left her doing a freak off at his Los Angeles home to confront rival record executive Suge Knight at Mel's Drive-In Diner, right? A landmark nearby. Anybody know about Mel's famous diner, right? They know about that. Combs sprang into action after his bodyguard came in and told him that about Knight's whereabouts. So this goes to show that Diddy still had some animosity for Suge. Once again, goes into what Keefe D was talking about with the $1 million hit, right? So because Cassie said they in the middle of a freak off, and the bodyguard comes in and tells Diddy that Suge over at Mel's Diner, right? So Combs sprang into action, basically after the bodyguard, told him what was up, and told him of that, Suge was over at Mel's Diner, and that's near the like near Beverly Hills, if you will, right? Sprung into action. Combs and the bodyguard, dressed in black clothes, grabbed guns from a safe and loaded into the SUV, she said. And Cassie said she was crying. I was screaming, like, please don't do anything stupid, right? Cassie testified. This does not sound like someone who's being trafficked. This sounds like somebody who's in love. She loved Diddy. She said that they were, listen, she said that they were, and this is, what I want to do is I want to break this down for you, ladies and gentlemen. She said that when they left, they dressed in all black. They had the guns. They loaded up the guns, right? They going to get at Suge over at Mel's Diner. Cassie said, I was crying. I was screaming. Please don't do anything stupid, Cassie testified. I was really nervous for them. I didn't know what they were going to do. Now, pause. Pause, ladies and gentlemen. I need you to understand something. If she was held against her will, being trapped, all of these things at that particular moment, because Sean P. Diddy Combs is on trial now for sex trafficking, right? At that particular time, she could run out the house. She could call the police. But Cassie said, I was crying. I was screaming, please don't do anything stupid. And because she loved him, right? Once again, I don't know what they told Cassie and why she came to testify, right? And so, but this is what she said. She said it was like I wasn't even there. Cassie said it was like when Diddy got up to leave to go and confront Suge after the bodyguard told him that Suge was at Mel's Diner, right? Near Beverly Hills, right? She said it was like I wasn't even there. Cassie said Combs later returned, but he didn't say if he told her what happened, right? So now, she said after he came back, she didn't say if Combs told her what happened. Evidently, nothing happened from that perspective that we know of, right? Because Suge is in prison from that perspective. It's unclear if he ended up encountering Suge at the diner. So now, Suge Knight name has now been brought into this case. Basically, we knew about this from the civil case. So this goes to show you where this information came from, where they got the information from, and how they're presenting that in this criminal case. Really? I mean, it was civil. It was civil to begin with. She said, I was crying, I was screaming, like, please don't do anything stupid. Now, let's pause. She said that they were in the middle of a freak off when this happened. So at Diddy's house, so I'm thinking that the prosecution, every time something happens, they're gonna say basically they were in the middle of a freak off. You know what I mean? And so if it was all of what that was supposed to be, then she's basically saying, it was like I wasn't even there. What does that mean? That don't sound like somebody being, trafficked and held against their will and all of that. At that particular moment, she was crying. She was screaming. Please don't do anything stupid, Cassie testified. Yeah, this is what I'm saying. I don't, like I said, once again, she paid the guy the money. They're involved with, and now listen, she's speaking so nonchalantly about, oh, we was in the middle of the freak off and the bodyguard came and said, yeah, she'll go over at Mel's diner, and him and Puffy, grab guns out the safe, load the guns, put on all black, and go over to the place and confront him. And she said, I was screaming and crying and all of this. This sound like somebody who cared about their boyfriend and not getting in trouble. I'm trying to, like I said, me personally, I'm trying to catch up with what the prosecution is trying to allude to. Are they going to say, oh, it came down later that she really didn't want to do the freak offs no more and he made her to do them? I mean, come on, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah, I like I said, I really don't understand that and what that means. You know what I mean? And so this is what she's talking. This is the latest thing. And like I said, if we need any recap of what happened, right? You say Rico L said she was held hostage by Puff's money. But yeah, it seemed, like I said, he was taking care of her. The other young lady, it seemed like everybody that came in to Sean Puffy Combs' orbit was being taken care of. The one girl with the child, he rented her a house. Cassie, he rented her an apartment. Cassie did come out with the one single that she had, which was dope. I liked it. You know what I mean? And like I said, with the promise of fame and fortune and all of those things, like I said, once again, if she didn't get paid from what she thought she should be paid from for, I guess, participating in something that she didn't want to, then I think when she sued Diddy, that was confirmation of everything that she didn't get when, while she was there. So, yeah, so she testified to that 8 minutes ago. She said Cassie recalled an incident in which Combs left during a freak off in his Los Angeles home to confront rival record executive Suge Knight at Mel's Drive-In Diner, a landmark diner nearby. Combs sprang into action after his bodyguard came and told him of Knight's whereabouts. She said Combs and the bodyguard, dressed in all black clothes, grabbed guns from a safe and loaded into the SUV. She said, I was crying, I was screaming, like, please don't do anything stupid. Cassie testified, I was really nervous for them. I don't know what they were going to do. Now, think about this for a minute. That information right there, and I guess feeling like they could catch Suge slipping or out at Mel's or whatever. What would possess Puffy to do something like that? What was he feeling? What was he angry about? Right? You go into the Keefe D thing. Keefe D saying, yeah, yo, we met at Greenblatt's, right? And Puffy was basically saying, hey man, I want to get rid of these guys. So it is plausible, ladies and gentlemen. Like I said, I wouldn't be surprised, man. I don't know what Keefy D doing right now. I wouldn't be surprised if they trying to talk to him about taking some kind of plea, man, and possibly testifying against Puffy and involving, because what if she telling the truth? And like I said, this is out of the blue. She telling the truth. Then why would he want to get at Suge like that? For what reason? And so it makes it more plausible that, okay, cool, when what happened in Vegas, and Keefy D said that shortly after what happened, he got a call from Faith Evans, and Faith said, what? Was that y'all? You know what I mean? Meaning dealing with the Tupac situation. And he also said on the Art of Dialogue also that, yo, you got to go check out that Keefy D interview. He said that, the Zip thing and the Puffy, and he talked to Puffy and the whole 9 yards. So, and also seen Puffy the night that Biggie got shot, at the Peterson Automotive Museum. So, yeah, according to Cassie, they was trying to get at Suge, man. I wonder if Suge remembers that, or was there a confrontation? I believe there was a confrontation. The guy said it on Vlad. One of the bodyguards said it on Vlad that there was some kind of confrontation involving that situation. Yeah, that million. Like I said, once again, the Keefy D thing. Once for everybody who was believing otherwise, like I said, to come up with that. Like I said, I told you the other day, Keefy D said that Angela Winbush was there, Ron Isley was there. He named people that were there at this meeting that had nothing to do with, I'm sure, what was going on in the situation where Puffy was dealing with Keefy D in the reference to Tupac and Suge. But he was just explaining the people that were there, right? So it makes it more plausible that, the people that he didn't even, they weren't asking about anything like that, that he would say that they were there. So, yeah, Keefy D definitely talked himself into the Clark County Detention Center. He had the deal of a lifetime, man. Like I said, I still don't understand that one. Yeah. So, like I said, I think they're basically rehashing the civil case, if you want to be perfectly honest. She said she was jealous, like I said, and my thing is, after the testimony from Daniel Phillips yesterday, you would think that the prosecution would go over some of that testimony and say, well, hey, Mr. Phillips came in and said that you paid him $3,000. Why did you do that? This was the first time that they had met, and the first, I believe, one of the first freak offs that they had, in which Cassie gave him the money, right? It's funny how the prosecution is not really trying to go over that and say, well, did Sean Combs tell you to? Because see, it was the first time. So they don't want to deal with that. They want to try to create this story in where she was now being coerced and forced. So now, question should have been asking, when was that? When was that around about the time that the Suge thing happened, right? Because if you understand and know what time that, or around about the time that happened, you can kind of make other determinations as to what was going on, and the timeline that the prosecution is trying to drum up here. Yeah. Cassie on the stand, she telling it all. Cassie, like, they grabbed the guns and they went after Suge. You know what I mean? But like I said, this is one of the things that moved Diddy to settle the case. What I think really moved Diddy to settle the case was Cassie also had videos of the freak offs on her cell phone. Another thing, like I said, once again, this is another thing that's happening right now. The prosecution doesn't want the media, right? Because the media, they putting in for a Freedom of Information Act. The prosecution doesn't want the media to see the freak off tapes that Cassie submitted as evidence. Why is that? Ladies and gentlemen, did you hear what I just said? The prosecution does not want the media to see the freak off tapes that Cassie submitted as evidence against Sean P. Diddy Combs. Why is that? Could it appear that she's enjoying it? I think that's the like I said, in court they want you to think the worst, the worst, the worst. The media gets a hold of that and they're gonna, do the reporting on that. They're gonna report what they see 9 times out of 10. Well, yeah, but I think Diddy had an insurance policy. Like I said, rich people, they usually have like some type of insurance policy based on what's up, Fatima? Based on if they get sued and things like that. So, I believe the insurance policy that he had actually settled that situation. Like I said, I don't see, like I said, I don't see Cassie really testifying to anything at this particular point after Daniel Phillips without incriminating herself. You know what I mean? Like I said, I totally respect that she's married now, she's moved on, and all of those things. But there's a lot of things that Cassie should have done. Like I said, when Diddy was hitting on her, she should have called the police. Did she weigh out the fact that if I call the police, then my rent don't get paid? If I call the police, my records have the potential to not come out. So was she thinking about herself or the advantages that she stood to gain versus thinking about what she stood to lose if she called the police on Diddy? That's the real question. Yeah, absolutely. That's why they don't want the media. Because, like I said, now, ladies and gentlemen, we have heard throughout the past 5 or 6 months, right? People saying they had tapes of Diddy, they had all of this information and all of that, right? All of a sudden, these supposedly incriminating tapes, right? They don't want nobody to see them now. The prosecution is saying that we don't think that there's anything that's there's precedent. Now they're using the precedent. There's precedent, legal precedent set that these tapes shouldn't be viewed by the public. Diddy's lawyers basically saying, hey, no, we believe that the media should be able to see him. There's nothing really on him that is that much more far-fetched than anything other than that you would normally see in some kind of porn video. And that's like basically their exact words in which they were quoting from that perspective. So, like I said, I can't see, as to what's the reason. Because, like I said, if Suge Knight being brought into this case is kind of like the highlighted case because Diddy wanted to get at Suge Knight, then that shows that what Keefe D's saying is more plausible than not. The woman who was Diddy's girlfriend, right? The woman who was Diddy's girlfriend basically testified to that from that perspective. So, yeah. That's crazy, man. That's crazy. What do you say, P? Yeah, but I don't think they. I think if they showed it, if they showed it to the jury, I think they showed it to the jury like in private. I don't think they're gonna show it in court, openly in court, because the court, the whole proceeding is played to the jury, right? But yeah, I mean, like you said, roll the film. If it's all of what they saying it is, then roll the film. He said they're gonna see her white nail polish, right? Yeah, yeah, that's what I'm saying. So Diddy and them saying, "Yo, let them see the tape. Let the media see the tape." He said his pretty Tony failed, no more player. Right. Well, we don't know if, like I say once again, we don't know if it's a celebrity, or it could be old boy Daniel Phillips, or it could be somebody else. I'm thinking, listen, 9 times out of 10, and this how they got the boy Daniel Phillips. I'm thinking that the tapes that they have that Cassie gave him, I think it's probably the dude Daniel Phillips in it. And that's how they got in contact with him. Once she submitted that evidence, they got in contact with him and basically said that, and like I said, I'm wondering why he even testified. You see what I'm saying? All he had to say was, man, I don't know what y'all talking about. You know what I mean? She didn't give me no money. Can they prove it other than what she's saying? Right? So my thing is, and that's what Tenny Garagos, Diddy's lawyer, was asking. He was asking, well, why are they saying all of this now? Why are they saying all of this now? Because at the end of the day, he got paid, so he says, right, by Cassie. And so what, and so like I said, and then they got what, 3 or 4 other women, I think, who's going to testify to, and they're saying this is over 2 decades, y'all. They got 5 people in over 2 decades. That's you know what I mean? Like, oh yeah, he'll be, like I said, the domestic violence is wrong. He should have been locked up for that. Diddy should have been locked up for hitting her like that, or any other woman that he hit like that. Brandy, you stupid. Brandy said, Brandy, I ain't even gonna repeat what you said. Check the chat. Brandy crazy. Diddy got mad at her. Yeah. Like, hold on, cut. He was rolling film, recording everything. Yeah. Like I said, I can't, other than like I said, they're not really, Suge Knight. What does that have to do? I think with the Suge Knight thing was they trying to show Diddy's propensity for violence, right? That he'll get the gun, oh, he carries guns and he's intimidating and so on and so forth. Whoever the bodyguard was, I guess he was trying to score points. Yo, Suge over at Mel's Diner right now. What you want to do? What you want to do, Diddy? Yeah, it Carla, like you said, Carla Shepard say it would definitely be more than 5 people if it was over 2 decades. And like I said, once again, remember, what about all of those lawsuits that Tony Busby said he had, right? All of these supposed victims, these Jane Does, where are they? I mean, like I said, you would think that if it was some kind of, all of them claim to be drugged. You know what I mean? If it was some kind of really nefarious thing going on, oh man, Tony Busby said he had 100 people. So it would at least be 40 victims. We're going to give them a 40%. It would at least be 40 victims, right? You don't see that. I think those cases with, this potential money grabs and trying to go after the money, if you ask me. Yeah, all, like you say, exotic beauty, all fake, right? Brandon Carter, what's up? Yeah, like I said, that's why I think that they got the guy Phillips, because Phillips is on the tape with Cassie and Diddy during the time that they talking about that the one freak off that she the tapes or the video that she had. And see, the cold part about it is, think about it for a minute. Cassie recorded this on her phone. This is not what was she doing to recording it on her phone? She intended on using it later in this, like in a case like this. Right. Dre Ham say he guilty all day for domestic violence. Absolutely. Beautiful truth. She realized he wasn't gonna marry her, and she didn't have a music career, so that's when she decided to be out. Yeah, I would think so. Like I said, and then what's the girl named Young Miami? She came into the picture, trying to, do her 1-2 or whatever. Yeah, and I'm like I said, if it was all of that, Diddy should have been locked up for domestic violence. You know what I mean? It seems like he's a serial domestic abuser, man. Without a doubt. Without a doubt. And so, well, I mean, I wouldn't even say that she fell for the sex trap story mode. I wouldn't say she fell for the sex trap. Like I said, once again, the money, and him buying an apartment. I don't know what Cassie comes from. I don't know what kind of background she comes from. You know what I mean? What she's middle class, upper middle class. I don't know. But for whatever it was, right? For whatever it was, she loved the lifestyle. She loved going to walk on the red carpet. She liked, going to the Met Gala. She liked going to the Metropolitan Museum. She liked going to Central Place. She liked going to, the south of France. She liked all of that. You know what I mean? Yeah, absolutely. A YouTuber. We definitely, with you on that, he definitely abused her. Yeah, he definitely abused her. But like I said, my thing is the situation. This is a case of optics, right? Think about it, y'all. Um, he coerced people with violence and threats of violence and all of this. So now you bring Suge Knight into the case, right? And like I said, when you coach a witness to testify, I guess, for or against certain things, when you coach a witness, it's like, okay, next we're going to talk about the Suge Knight situation. You know what I mean? And so the Suge Knight thing come up. Yeah, he got the guns. They put on all black, and they was ready to go get Suge. Oh my God, and wondering, some of the jurors a little bit older, but if they understand and know who Suge Knight is, and then they say, well, Suge Knight is in jail right now for attempted murder, whatever. Oh my God, Diddy, he is a bad guy. My thing is this. I would hope that the jury don't get so enamored with the optics and these side stories that they say, you know what, and it possibly could happen, man, because it happens all the time. They're gonna punish Diddy for all that he wasn't punished for, right? They're gonna say, yeah, he's guilty, because he did all of these things and he walked away, right? Or it's a possibility that they could say, you know what, no, she should have, called the police. She should have, notified authorities, even the night on the, that the tape was filmed. The guy, the security guard basically said, he asked her, do you want me to call the police? And Cassie said, no, I just want to leave. Now, after all of that, and the security guard said that she had a purple eye, right? After all of that, she still did not want to leave. Like I said, you can't explain it. You can't explain it to me. You said, Adia said what he said. It's a girl fight, but since he has all the money, they put people involved with them. Now it's time to whatever, unless the beast. Yeah, I can't really understand that one, DM. You got to come a little clearer than that. I'm trying to read it though, but yeah, you say weaker than Reggie stories. That, yeah, Reggie's out there. He's trying to get on different platforms, man. Like I said, we exposed the lies with him trying to do all of the things that he was trying to do, and you see now they're asking questions, and basically he's saying that, hey, most of the stuff I'm reporting is the stuff I seen on the internet. He has to tell the truth now. When he was over on Bomb First, he was talking about as if he knew it firsthand. So yeah, that is what that is. Bomb First is now bankrupt, right? Like, oh, look. Cassie comes out. Cassie say what? Cassie said Combs was really happy with her after her first freak off. Ladies and gentlemen, listen. Not that Combs was happy, but how did she feel? Cassie testified that her first freak off occurred in Combs's Los Angeles home when she was 22 years old around 2008, right? She said a male Las Vegas stripper came to the home just months after Combs told her about his interest in voyeurism. So Puffy, he likes voyeurism. He's the type of dude, he like filming stuff, right? Like watching. He liked to watch people engaging in sexual activity. Cassie said she felt a mix of emotions when they were finished, right? So she volunteered to say, so they're basically gonna set it up and say, but she didn't want to do it no more. He made her do it. I see where they're going with it. Cassie said that she felt a mix of emotions when they were finished, dirty and confused, but also a relief that Combs was really happy with me, that I did something right. So she was aiming to please her boyfriend at that particular time. Say after the first freak off, right, occurred, you know what I mean? That she was really, that Sean P. Diddy Combs was really happy with me, that I had did something right. She said she felt obligated to go along with future freak offs. Now, she said she felt obligated, not that she felt forced, not that she felt coerced, but she felt obligated to go along with future freak offs. I just didn't want to make him upset. I just didn't want to make him angry and regret telling me about this experience that was so personal. So basically, she had confided in him. She was with it, right? She asked if there was anything she enjoyed about the freak offs. And emotional Cassie said the time spent with him, the time spent with P. Diddy. Once again, this is what she said. They asked her if there was anything that she enjoyed about the freak offs. And she was basically emotional when she responded. She said that the time that she spent with Diddy, wiping away tears. She explained that those encounters provided some of the only one-on-one time she had with Combs. Soon, she said, she was doing freak offs weekly. The final one, she said, occurred in and around 2017 or 2018. So, ladies and gentlemen, let's be clear about this. And let's understand this, and I need you to understand this. After the 2016 situation at the hotel, after the purple eye, after the security guard asked Cassie if she wanted to call the police, right? Listen, I need you to listen to this. After all of that, Cassie said that after the first freak off in and around 2008, she was doing about a freak off a week. If you wanted to be perfectly honest, about a freak off a week. So, you know, most people in the rap game would say, yeah, she was the freak of the week. You know what I mean? But she was doing a freak off a week, after 2008. The first one happened with a Las Vegas stripper at P. Diddy's Los Angeles home. So, but I need you to understand something. The situation at the hotel happened on March 5th, 2016. So now, after that, we seen what happened. Diddy paid whatever $100,000 to hide the tape, right? He paid $100,000 to hide the tape. Cassie went downstairs, talked to the security guard. Security guard said she had a purple eye. She had a black eye, right? He asked her, would you like for me to call the police? Cassie said no. And so now, and the prosecution asked Cassie if there was anything, the first time she did a freak off, if there was anything that she enjoyed about the freak off. And she was crying when she replied. She said, the time I spent with him, meaning the time that she spent with Diddy, watching her do the freak off. She said, because that was the only time they really got a chance to spend together. I disagree with that, because before the freak off would happen, from that perspective, they had to be together. They did things, we see the pictures, at the Met, at the Metropolitan, at the movie premiere, at all of these other places where they were together, right? So I'm kind of, like I said, once again, and I don't know if the defense might be picking up on it, so I'm kind of like leery in what that is, but I respect her emotions and where she's coming from. Wiping away the tears, Cassie explained that those encounters provided some of the only one-on-one time she had with Combs. She had with Diddy. Soon, she said, she was doing freak-offs weekly. The final one, she said, occurred in 2017 or 2018. Ladies and gentlemen, like I told you before, when the security guard asked Cassie at the hotel, he testified to this yesterday. When the security guard asked Cassie, do you want me to call the police? And she said no. That right there says not guilty. And the reason why is because she stayed with Diddy 2 more years after that, and she continued to do freak-offs. If she did not want to do freak-offs anymore, right? She had left. She had the opportunity to leave, right? I'm not talking about taking Diddy's side. Diddy is a domestic abuser. He's a woman beater. He should have been locked up for that. Let me be clear. A long time ago, she should have called the police on him. But like I said, if she called the police on him, she stand to lose her rent, where she lived, her potential of releasing music, all of the things, like they said, there's a saying that said, if the ties that bind you together are stronger than those that'll tear you apart, then all will be well. And she felt like that the ties that bind her together with him were stronger than those that would tear her apart. And so all was well with the freak-offs, with the domestic violence, all of those things. That's what it said to me. When we seen that tape, the tape gave us, like I said, the tape gave me, I'm like, damn, who is this guy? This is P in the rap song. This is Mr. P. Diddy. I run the city. But this is actually P. Diddy. I'm insecure. And this is P. Diddy. I'm not really sure. Right? And so the prosecution had painted the picture that was doing a freak off, and when Diddy came out the room in a towel and he assaulted her at the hotel. Diddy was saying that it was over a cell phone that he tried to snatch from Cassie for whatever reason, right? And I would think that Diddy might, take the stand. I would hope that he would take the stand in defending himself, for whatever. I think he's gonna have to. Like I say, his life is on the line. And so, but Cassie said the last freak off occurred in and around 2017 or 2018. That is 2 years after that video incident that we became privy to just last year. You understand what I'm saying? So that video became privy to us for last year. That was about what? 16, 17, 18, 19, 21, 2, 3, 4. That's like 8 years, right? So 8 years had went with Diddy, 8 more years. 8 more years after that situation where Israel Flores, the security guard, testified that, hey, I asked her, would you like for me to call the police? And Cassie said, no, I just want to leave. And she left. Daniel Phillips, right, said what? Daniel Phillips said, after the situation where he seen Diddy hit her when they were doing the freak off, what did he say? He said that he talked to Cassie, and because she ran to him, she was buck naked, and she ran to him, and he talked to her and said, hey, why do you stay with this guy, right? If he keeps on hitting you like this. She said, I'm okay. I'll be okay. That's twice. And so, like I said, I'm not painting Cassie as a bad person. This is the reality that we're dealing with, right? And so, 2016, March 5th, 2016, the Intercontinental Hotel in Los Angeles is where that situation happened at. Cassie just testified on the stand that the final freak off that she was involved in happened in and around 2017 or 2018. Now, my thing, if she was, if it was all of what the prosecution is trying to make it to be, like I said, where was all of this? Like I said, if the guy, so far the guy Daniel Phillips testified that Cassie was the one that gave him money, or they would give him money, so they were complicit. She said, but every time he came, they would pay him anywhere from $700 just from showing up, and various amounts of other money. When he got done, like I said, he said one time he came when he came over there and he seen Diddy hit her. He said he couldn't even get it up. You know what I mean? From that perspective, that's what he had testified to. So yeah, she said that after the first freak off, she said she felt obligated, right? She didn't feel forced. She didn't feel coerced. She said she felt obligated. Why did she feel obligated? Listen to the testimony, ladies and gentlemen. I just didn't want to make him upset. Because they're using the word coerced, right? So when they're using the word coerced, she said after the first one, she felt obligated to go along with future freak offs. This is her testimony. I just didn't want to make him upset. I just didn't want to make him angry and regret telling me about his experience that was so personal, that he liked voyeurism, that he liked watching people, basically he liked watching porn. And so what Diddy was, he had the kind of money that he could create his own porn thing. And that's what he was doing, involving his girlfriend at the time, who he spent 10 years with. Reginald Hicks says she paid now. I guess evidently the money doesn't matter, because if the money mattered, she wouldn't be testifying right now. So that's what's making me wonder, like, what did they tell her? Like, yo, you could be charged with, sex trafficking if you don't testify against Diddy. You know what I mean? I wonder how Cassie's husband feel that she on the stand crying about how she used to enjoy time spent with him, and then she crying or whatever. I wonder, if he's sitting back thinking, well, oh, you still got feelings for him? Once again, people have their emotions and their egos and feelings and things like that too. So he said that video at the hotel appeared to me like Cassie was trying to rob Diddy while he was in the shop. Yeah, like I said, once again, from what I had heard in regards to that video, I heard that there was over $200,000 cash in that briefcase. Now, listen, they're saying that Diddy paid the security guard $100,000 to basically bury that video for the meantime and in between time, right? So you go figure. I don't know if the 100,000 was brought back. I don't know if he counted 100 stacks and was like, here, make it not see the light of day. So, like I said, yeah. So, yeah, like I said, and the first thing that Diddy grabbed when he grabbed it was that Louis Vuitton bag, if you will. He grabbed that Louis Vuitton bag. So, like I said, it kind of, I was thinking like he wasn't really worried about nothing but that bag. From that perspective. So my thing was, okay, what was in that bag? Right? Go back and look. If you go back and look at that, there was the first thing he grabbed was that Louis Vuitton bag. And it looked like it was filled up with something that was stacked to the top. And then was Diddy in the shower and she tried to sneak out? You see what I'm saying? And then he heard the hotel door shut, and then came out and seems like, oh, she's trying to get away, or she's running away, right? What was she running from? But like I said, the cold part about that, she just testified that she stayed in the last freak off that she was involved in occurred around 2017 to 2018. That's the crazy part, right? And basically said that she was happy. She was really happy. That Diddy was really happy with her after her first freak off. Yeah, Mrs. KP Bailey. Yeah, like I said, he could have been in the bathroom just getting out the shower, whatever it was. Like I said, I don't know what it was, but like I said, he didn't have clothes on, but she was fully dressed. So they couldn't have been into any. Think about it for a minute. Think about it for a minute. She was fully dressed. So when you say that Razanaya, what's that? Who's that? Rasnaya. When you say that, I don't think he could have been in the shower, because if you look, the video, he had socks on. Now check this out. Now, but she was fully dressed. They claim that they were in the middle. The prosecution is claiming that they were in the middle of a freak off, right? So how could they be in the middle of a freak off and she all fully dressed, and he in a towel and he got his socks on? You see what I'm saying? So from that perspective alone, yeah, it's crazy, man. Jay Smooth, who's Jay Smooth? Who you calling the weirdo, Jay Smooth? Hey, Carla Fatima, get him up out of here, Carla Fatima. Jay Smooth. So yeah, Rasnaya, if you understand what I'm saying from that perspective, that's what they would want us to believe. Like I said, once again, there's things that we can look at as the public, right? That since they wanted to release the video, we can see for ourselves. We can kind of determine for ourselves. We don't know what was going on, but Cassie had a hoodie on. She was, you know what I mean? All of those things. So we can determine, basically, yeah, from that perspective. Thank you for clarifying that, Jake Smooth. Yeah, we've been calling it that, Jake Smooth. We've been calling it abuse. It's domestic violence. Like I said, but they've been telling us, they've been trying to convince us. You know what I mean? Look, check it out now. Cassie back again. Cassie said each freak off involved about 10 large bottles of Johnson's baby oil, Cassie said. Say each freak off, they had at least 10 large bottles of baby oil. Cassie said the freak offs were a very choreographed experience with lots of baby oil, right? So Diddy was he's a choreographer. You know what I mean? He's a director, action, put the baby oil on or whatever, Cassie said the freak offs were a very choreographed experience with lots of baby oil. The substance would be heated up. Listen, not drugged, not dope put in them, right? The substance would be heated up, a closed bottle placed in a sink filled with hot water. So they would put the bottles in the water, under hot water, so that it would heat up a little bit, right? And applied literally because Combs wanted her glistening constantly, she said. Oh, he wanted his star shining. You know what I mean? Yeah, she said that Sean P. Diddy Combs wanted her to shine. He wanted to see her shine. You know what I mean? She said Combs would call out Cassie when she looked dry and ordered her to reapply, sometimes requiring a new coat of baby oil every 5 minutes or so, she said. Wow. So now we get why there was so much baby oil, right? Sean P. Diddy Combs had an affection for when Cassie was shining. He liked her skin to be shiny and glistening, right? And she said that when doing the freak offs, when she would look dry, right? When she would look dry, he would call out cut. He would cut the video. He was a director. He was choreographing everything. He was at cut. He called out Cassie when she looked dry and ordered her to reapply, sometimes requiring a new coat of baby oil every 5 minutes or so, she said. This is what she's testifying to. On one occasion, she said, a blow-up pool. Wow. There we get it. A blow-up pool, the little baby blow-up pools, right, of baby oil and lubricants was placed in a hotel room, and she was told to get inside in her outfit and shoes. Wow. Wow. So Diddy would have a blow-up baby blow up one of them little baby pools, the little blue ones. He would have a blow up baby pool that he had in the middle of a hotel room, and it was filled with lubricant and baby oil, and was placed in the hotel room. And Cassie was told to get inside in her outfit and shoes. She said close to 10 large bottles of baby oil would be used during a freak off. So that's why when they went to Diddy's house in Homely Hills, that he had all the baby oil. She said that every freak off, it would be close to 10 large bottles, not the small bottles, but the large bottles of baby oil would be used during a freak off. She said it was such a mess. She said it was like, what are you doing? This, I guess that it was a recollection that she was having or had afterward. She said, I guess it was a mess. That's basically what she said. So yeah, 10 large bottles. So now we understand where the baby oil come from. You know, I think a lot of people had these crazy thoughts and what they were doing and how they were using the baby oil. But basically, like I said, Cassie said that each freak off involved 10 large bottles of Johnson's baby oil, Cassie said. Right? Cassie said the freak offs were a very choreographed experience with lots of baby oil. The substance would be heated up, a closed bottle placed in a zinc filled with hot water, and applied liberally because Combs wanted her glistening constantly, she said. So Diddy wanted her shining constantly. Combs would call out Cassie when she looked dry and ordered her to reapply, sometimes requiring a new coat of baby oil every 5 minutes or so, she said. On one occasion, she said, a blow-up pool of baby oil and lubricants was placed in a hotel room, and she was told to get inside in her outfit and shoes. She said that close to 10 large bottles of baby oil would be used during a freak off. Johnson & Johnson owed Sean P. Diddy Combs a check. Listen, people gonna get inspired. They're gonna get inspired by that. They're gonna be like, baby oil, like, you know, people who, you know, regular, like, man, it seemed like he was on to something, right? You know, yeah, that's crazy. That is crazy, man. It was such, she said, Cassie said it was such a mess, she said. I was like, what are you doing? You know what I mean? I don't know if she was saying that in reference to him or in reference to asking herself. Well, I mean, the maid's cleaning up the room after this. Like I said, when you dealing with Diddy, you know, that the room cleanup is nothing. You know what I mean? He got the money to be that's nothing. Like I said, then they probably would be wondering, like, what are these stains on the floor? And it is bring somebody in there, they, you know, shampoo the rug or whatever have you, and keep it pushing. Yeah, like I said, once again, it doesn't sound like it was trafficking to me. She basically testifying that, hey, you know what I mean? She's but that last statement when she said it was such a mess, she said it was like she asked, "What are you doing?" She's asking herself, "What are you doing?" So they're gonna try to formulate. I know what they're gonna do. They're gonna try to formulate this thought where she didn't want to do it anymore, and he made her do it. Right? This is the thing that they're gonna. But my thing is, after the 2016 situation at the hotel, and she didn't want to call the police. You know, my thing is, it wasn't so much that the freak offs, but the domestic violence didn't make her move. And that's the part that I'm questioning. You gotta understand, like I said, the videotape is they're using the videotape and basically saying that when, you know, Diddy used force and, you know, threats and all of these things to make her do what he wanted her to do. Now, once again, at that hotel, we can see that didn't make her want to call the police. The guy, Daniel Phillips, testified that he seen Diddy hit her, and he's like, hey, won't you leave, and so on and so forth, and she didn't. That didn't make her want to leave. So where do you get to the point you say, well, damn, you know what? It was something that she liked being there for, right? Because she had the opportunity to call the police after but she stayed 2 more years. Why is that? And I mean, like I said, she could say, yeah, well, I loved him. You know what I mean? From that perspective. I don't know. I think Cassie's the only one that can really, truly, honestly understand that. Well, Jay Smooth say just because she gave him the money don't mean nothing. It absolutely does mean something, Jay Smooth. I don't know if you know what a co-conspirator is, or someone being complicit in the behavior that they now regret participating in. That's what you want to call that. It's called being complicit, right? And having buyer's remorse. It's like you and your friend, y'all sell drugs. He get caught, and you said, well, he said, well, I got some of the money from my partner, and he said, well, well, that doesn't matter. If they got you on the phone talking about situations with your partner, then you going to jail too in that conspiracy. Yeah, that's how that works, Jake Smooth. It don't work because you want to see it as something else. Well, we don't know if Kim Porter wanted Tupac. That's not true. That's not true. They put that in that little bogus book that they put out. Kim Porter wanted Tupac. I don't believe that. Like I said once again, you know, Tupac was his own man. Like I said, what Kim Porter wanted, I don't think she expressed that to Diddy. I think Diddy was jealous of Tupac because Tupac was Tupac. You got to understand that Tupac and Diddy had a relationship before they were enemies. You know what I mean? So Diddy knew who Tupac was, knew the power he had, and he knew how the broads went crazy over Tupac. So the last thing that I would think it would be because of Kim Porter. It was just because Tupac was so charismatic about who he was. You know what I mean? We got something exclusive coming soon from the Art of Dialogue, where you're gonna hear something about Tupac that you never heard before. You know what I mean? So y'all might want to stay tuned to that. You said I had a video about baby oil, how it was used, and nobody believed me. So I'm glad Cassie got on the stand and said exactly what I told everybody. Well, the Suburbia Jones effect. Thank you for telling everybody. But like I said, I mean, come on. I mean, a lot of people wanted to believe whatever they wanted to believe. But it seems to me, I don't, like I said, she hasn't testified that Diddy used baby oil. Basically, it was for whoever else. But, I just want to know if she's going to get into that, into the testimony in regards to whether he used it or, you know what I mean? The guy Daniel Phillips did say that sometimes Diddy would join in, and then the guy Daniel Phillips said he would go over to sit in the chair in the corner. I don't know if he was ordered to record or whatever, but that's what he would do. I don't know. Jay Smooth, we don't know who gave her the money. It doesn't matter who gave her the money, Jay Smooth. I think you're looking at the wrong thing. You're thinking about the wrong thing. She gave the money to Mr. Phillips and said that she would give him a tip when he got finished. That's what Mr. Phillips testified to. Who gave her the money? Where she got the money from? We're waiting to see if she has any more information in regards to that. You know what I mean? So now the prosecutor is now emphasizing, right? Emphasizes Combs' alleged involvement. Well, we know he was involved. He was there filming it. He was, you know what I mean? He was a participant. As she's questioned, Cassie, prosecutor Emily Johnson returned again, and to a simple but important question: whose decision was it? Listen, y'all. Listen, y'all. The prosecutor is now asking Cassie, whose decision was it? As if Cassie couldn't make her own decisions, ladies and gentlemen. I told you where they're going with it. Sean, Cassie replied each time, referring to Combs. It was his decision, she said, to involve her in freak offs, to incorporate baby oil and male sex workers, to pour candle wax on her body, and more. Ladies and gentlemen, Cassie has just implemented Sean P. Diddy Combs, and basically saying that he was the person who once again, prosecutors emphasize Combs' involvement as she's questioned. And listen, it doesn't make any sense because she said that she felt obligated, right? She felt obligated to do that, and then after that, she felt obligated to participate in free calls, right? As she questioned Cassie, listen, as the prosecution questioned Cassie, prosecutor Emily Johnson returned again and asked a simple but important question. Whose decision was it? What you mean? Before 2016 or after 2016? Right? You see what I'm saying? Because once again, they're trying to absolve Cassie of any kind of responsibility. This is crazy. Whose decision was it? Sean, Cassie said. She replied each time, referring to Combs. It was his decision, she said, to involve her in freak offs, to incorporate baby oil and male sex workers, to pour candle wax on her body, and more. This is what she testified to. Amazing. So she had no responsibility at all. None. Right? And so this is what I'm saying. When cross-examination takes place, right? She said it was his idea. Yeah, I can have an idea, you know. You come, you know what I mean? Yeah, that what does that say? That doesn't say anything, right? But once again, they're trying to lay the foundation to imply something greater than what that was, right? It was to incorporate baby oil, male sex work. I can't believe, and like I said, it was his idea. It wasn't his decision. Listen, see the word play. Think about this for a minute. She said, as she questioned Cassie, prosecutor Emily Johnson returned again and again to a simple but important question. Whose decision was it? Listen, you got to the word game. Whose decision was it? No, it wasn't Sean P. Diddy Combs' decision. It was his idea. It was Sean P. Diddy Combs' idea. The decision was Cassie's. Right or wrong? Chat, tell me, right or wrong? Was it Cassie's decision or Sean P. Diddy Combs' the decision to do freak offs, to incorporate, to not incorporate a baby oil, but to put the baby oil on herself? You say you can set the baby oil right there. I'm not putting that on, right? So it's her decision as to whether she wants to participate. It's her decision if she wants to do a freak off. It's her decision if she wants to deal with male sex workers, right? It was Sean P. Diddy Combs' idea. It was his idea to do it, but it was her decision. And see, this is the problem that I have. Like now it's like they're trying to make, and this is for any of us. When somebody tries to make you responsible for their decisions. This is crazy. Think about it for a minute, ladies. I'm talking about decisions. I ain't talking about somebody having an idea. I got an idea that we should go and jump off the Empire State. The Empire State Building with no parachute or nothing. Now, I got an idea to do it, right? But it's your decision if you want to go and jump. So when the prosecution asks whose decision was it, they're playing word games. It was her decision to participate in freak offs. It was her decision to jump in the little baby pool with the baby oil and lubricant. Oh, it was her decision. It was her decision to decide to be with male sex workers. It was her decision to do that. But it was Sean P. Diddy Combs' idea. Simple. See, because a lot of times when people have when they have successful decisions, right? When they make decisions that involve them appearing in a positive light and having success, they want all the credit for that. They want all the credit for that. But let it be something that it's unbecoming and embarrassing and all of those things. And now they try to alleviate themselves with the accountability and make it somebody else's decision as to why they did what they did when it was a failure. When it was a success, it was all of their ideas. It was their idea, their decision. The outcome was theirs. They're successful. He's a genius. She's a genius, right? That's how that works. We say, Quiona said, we all like to take accountability. We all have to take account. Yeah, it's just about accountability. It's all about accountability. Wow, crazy. It's crazy, man. This is crazy, man. This is crazy, crazy, crazy. Like I said, once again, and not really dealing with the facts. And like I said, once again, this is how we've been played on as the public to believe certain things that are simply not true. You know, and when people say certain things, they'll say stuff like that. Well, whose decision was it? No, it was her decision. Whose idea was it? Whose idea was it to, to get in the car and let that person drive while they was drunk, right? It was his decision to drive drunk, right? So somebody driving drunk in a car, and they get behind the steering wheel, they say, well, when the police pull them over and they find out that they're intoxicated, the police don't say, well, whose decision was it to drive drunk? They don't ask the guy who driving drunk, whose decision was it to drive drunk? Well, it's apparent. It was the person who driving drunk. It was their decision. Whose idea was it to get behind the wheel and do what they were doing? Well, it was his idea because he got behind the wheel and drove while he was intoxicated. So who should bear the responsibility of the accountability of the consequences of their behavior? Right? There you have it. YouTuber, we don't know what Cassie was doing. She said she liked it and she felt obligated. She didn't say she was being forced. See, people like YouTuber come in the chat. You can't come in here and say something, right? And you're basically trying to defy what Cassie's already said. Cassie said that she felt obligated afterwards, as a matter of fact, right? Ain't that what she said, ladies and gentlemen? Cassie said she felt obligated. She said she felt obligated afterwards. She didn't say, huh? Right. Hold on. Hey, so YouTuber, don't go nowhere, YouTuber. Right? YouTuber, don't go nowhere. I'm gonna put it in the chat. I'm gonna put it in the chat so you can see, right? Look, check it out right here. YouTuber. That's a quote from Cassie. That's what she said. Cassie said that right there, YouTuber. Thank you, Carl. I appreciate that. Cassie, that's what she said right there, YouTuber. YouTuber, read what we just posted. She said she felt obligated to go along with Future Freak Off. She didn't say she was forced. She said she felt obligated. You know what I mean? Obligated and being forced to do something are two different things. I have an obligation to my children. I'm not forced to do anything. There's a lot of deadbeat parents out there that don't take care of their kids. But as a responsible parent, you feel obligated because that's your responsibility and you're obligated to take care of your kids. Nobody forcing you to do nothing. Now the court can give you certain kind of incentives to do that. Yeah. Yeah, Anthony Cox said that's some obligation if you ask me. Yeah, man. Like I say, Anthony, when we like I say, we dealing with this here, man. It's like I say, it's a lot. It's a lot that's going on. Like I said, a lot of people want to add their personal feelings Yeah. Well, let's be clear. YouTuber wants to come in. She didn't have a career in music. She had a hit single, a lukewarm single from that perspective, which I thought was dope. I like that song. Um, was it You and Me or You and I or something like that? I like that song. It was dope. You know what I mean? So like I said, once again, if one is banking on, um, that's the wrong reason to be doing what she's doing. Cassie came through to meet Sean P. Diddy Combs through Ryan Leslie. Ryan Leslie was way more talented than Sean P. Diddy Combs. Way more talented. Ryan Leslie played every instrument. She chose to climb the ladder of success and thought that Diddy could put her in a better position. And in some ways he could. And whatever happened in the personal relationship, she mixed business with personal, right? She mixed business with the personal situation, which she should have never done. One has to be accountable for that, right? We don't get absolved of accountability because somebody feel a certain way. Like, dude, you're accountable for your actions. People talk about this all the time. You know what I mean? People being accountable. Why can't a person be accountable? Because they're prideful? No. The accountability, we all are accountable for our actions. Yeah, Brandon Carter. Her single was dope. It was a dope single. Like I said, you know what I mean? Like I said, but like once she got mixed up with Diddy personally, like I said, the insecurity from his perspective, as we see now, kicked in. He didn't want her to have no limelight. He wanted her for him, right? So when you understand that, she didn't understand who she was dealing with. She was young, yeah, but like I said, once again, I don't know if she ever learned never to mix up, your business with your personal life. Yeah, like I said, she stayed with him. She said the last freak off occurred in and around 2018, right? She said the last freak off occurred in and around 2017 or 18, right? And so by that being what that is, when you think about everything that's been said so far, it's like, well, hold on. If that's the case, soon she said she was doing freak offs weekly, right? The final one she said occurred in 2017 or 2018. Like I said, when you go back to what the prosecutor asked her, it said, whose decision was it? Whose decision was it to involve her in freak offs? And she said it was Sean. Whose decision was it to incorporate baby oil? She was asked, and she said Sean. Whose decision was it to involve male sex workers? And she said Sean. Whose decision was it to pour candle wax on your body? And she said Sean. Right? It wasn't his decision. It was her decision to allow that to happen, and it was her decision to participate in that. It was his idea. It was definitely his idea because he was into voyeurism. She said it once. He had told her that he had told her that he was into voyeurism, and she wanted to appease him. He wanted to watch her have sex with another man while he watched, and she wanted to appease him. And after that, it was off to the races, right? It's funny enough as it said, rich people and regular people, they swing and they do this all the time. This is nothing new. This is, like I said, this playing out in court because it's showing P. Diddy Combs is one thing, but like I said, the bigger picture of it is this happens every day. So I don't know why it's such a big deal involving Sean P. Diddy Combs. I can understand the underlying attitude that people have about that, but yeah, it happens every day. You say, I wonder if the prison guards. Well, Diddy's in the feds. Diddy's at MDC. Tupac was in Rikers and he was in state prison. So the feds a little bit different. But like I said, I don't think that Diddy probably got a lot of privileges and things like that because his money is long. You know what I mean? And like I said, to be quiet is kept. Prison is his own world, right? So you know he could pay a dude. He could pay the prison dude's salary in one day if he wanted to. Yeah, absolutely, DJ Links. They laugh. They did laugh at Pac, calling Pac, the R word and all of those other things, man. Like I said, it wasn't do it or get beat down. I don't like I said once again, when somebody says that do it or get beat down, no, she had an opportunity to leave. She left. She went back. She stayed for 2 more years after the 16th situation at the hotel. After the March 5th, 16th situation at the hotel, in the Continental Hotel, Cassie stayed for 2 more years, man. I mean, like I said, once again, if she's absolved of all accountability, right? If basically what they're saying is she's absolved of all accountability, I would hope that we could get that same look. We don't, as men, we don't get that same look. Like I said, once again, you know what I mean? So when we think about the big picture of what that actually is and what that means, like I said, everybody is accountable for their behavior. Yeah, it's her decision. Leroy, whether he blew up a car, or not, like I said once again, is he charged with blowing up a car? Like I said, I'm just trying to deal with the facts. Like I said, when you think about it from that perspective, right? Like I said, I got a question for you, Mr. Miles. Mr. Miles, who decision, and I'm gonna ask you this: whose decision was it to participate and let baby oil be poured on their body? Who was the decision? Was it to have uh, intercourse with sex male workers? Right? Whose decision was it to let somebody pour wax on their body, Mr. Miles? Whose decision was that? I'll wait. Nobody's glorifying anybody. We're sticking with the facts. I'm surprised to see a lot of you guys in your feelings, man. YouTubers in his feelings. You in your feelings, YouTuber. Get out your feelings. Stop the hate. You know what I mean? We don't hate Sean P. Diddy Combs. We don't hate Cassie. We just looking at what the evidence is coming out in the courtroom. Right? So we don't feel any kind of way. We don't feel his guilt, his innocence, none of that. This is what's being said. And so when somebody says, well, whose decision was it for him to get behind the car, right? And drive drunk and the police pull him over, the police don't ask you, whose decision was it for you to get behind the car? To get behind the wheel when you were intoxicated? You possibly could kill somebody, you know what I mean? Or cause other people to have an accident, right? When they ask you that, they say, well, who decision was it? Right? Whose idea? Whose decision was it to get in the car and put the key in the ignition and drive while you intoxicated? Well, R. Kelly's situation is totally different from the Diddy situation. R. Kelly's situation is totally different. First of all, Cassie was of a legal age. Second of all, Cassie wasn't being held against her will from that perspective, from what we understand and know of, right? R. Kelly's situation is totally different. You can't compare the two. Of course, I understand liability. Yeah. You're not saying you're not coming in here once again, Mr. Miles. I do understand that you work in the legal field, but yeah, we understand what liability is. It's also a type of insurance you can have too, full coverage or just liability, right? She got paid in the civil case, Mr. Miles, for any liability that they thought happened from that perspective. She got paid in the civil case. The civil case is now being carbon copied into a criminal complaint, and that's what we're seeing right here. Disguised as a RICO case when they only have a one-person RICO. They have a one-person RICO case. I've seen it one time before, but yeah, even with Young Thug, his situation, it's a one-person. His wasn't a one-person RICO case, but this is a one individual RICO case. They said it's a criminal organization that's been going on for 2 decades. What according to what they're saying is 5 victims. I understand that. We understand that the level of the charges, right? Right? We understood that under Young Thug. Young Thug was just charged with RICO. Is Young Thug in jail? No. So what happened? Did they overcharge? Did they feel like they didn't stand a chance with the jury and offered Young Thug a deal? Did they offer Diddy a deal prior to going to trial? They did, Mr. Leroy Miles. Why did they offer a deal? Did they feel like their case was that strong, or did they just want to not go through with the litigation? We're going to see what happens. Yeah, we're going to see what happens, man. We're not here trying to play judge, jury, and execution. We're not trying to act like as if we know it all. We're not saying that, Mr. Miles, we're not saying that the civil case makes him immune from criminal prosecution. We're saying that it was carbon copied. That's all we're saying. We understand that. We say Mrs. KP Bailey, Miss KP. Yeah, like I said, that was that they said that $200,000 in that Louis Vuitton bag, right? That's why Diddy was so mad about her leaving or whatever. That's like I said, you go back and you look at the video, you see the first thing he grabbed was that Louis Vuitton bag. And so, we like I said, we have yet to hear. We're gonna hear, hopefully Diddy gonna testify. I think that's gonna be the striking moment over it all in cash, right? Hey, Anon Lee, that's basically what they're saying. Well, no, they're saying I don't know where the guy Daniel Phillips is from, but I think they might have flew him cross country to come to Los Angeles if he live in New York, wherever he lives. You know what I mean? They're basically saying, yeah, well, like I said once before, if Cassie was the one that paid him the money, then she would be complicit in the criminal activity that they allege that Diddy's participating in. Ain't that right, Mr. Leroy Miles? Leroy Miles. If Cassie gave the sex worker money, right, and coming in to do a freak off, wouldn't that make her complicit in the criminal activity that they're now alleging that Diddy committed? She would be, engaging in paying a prostitute. Look, people get locked up for that all the time. They set up stings in certain cities where the police go undercover playing as Johns, right? And when they give the money to the woman who promises something sexual, right, they lock her up, right, for soliciting prostitution, correct? Oh, I get it. It's not what you want. It's what's right and wrong. So hopefully the jury can see what's going on and understand that that's what that is. Or should I say that should be the argument that that the defense would make on their rebuttal, right? Or on their cross-examination, should I say. Well, we're not talking about whether Cassie has immunity. Of course she has immunity. Of course she does. We already understand that. That's why she's testifying. They gave her immunity based on the fact that she was a participant and complicit in these crimes. So does that so because the government gave her immunity, right? That makes Diddy guilty now? So that absolves her of any guilt because the government decided to give her immunity? No, absolutely not. In the government's eyes, the people that are prosecuting, but not in just common sense from that perspective. No, no, no. Mr. Miles, we understand what immunity is. We understand when the government gives somebody immunity to testify. Mr. Miles, we're not spring chickens, man. We're not spring chickens. Yeah, Jay Smooth. That's what we was telling you, Jay Smooth, man. Get out your feelings, man. You know what I mean? You calling P. Diddy a weirdo. P. Diddy just like his baby oil, and he like his woman shiny, man. You know what I mean? And he like watching, man. Like I said, you got a lot of dudes that claim to be, they straight lace, no chase, and they into the same type of behavior, but they just watching on their video screen, on their TV screen. Yeah, like I said, Diddy was wrong for putting his hands, his feet, anything on Cassie. Man, he was absolutely positively wrong. He is not the guy that we thought he was. Period. Point blank. But is that a sex trafficking RICO case? No. That's his personal Leroy Miles. That's Diddy personal business, man. I don't care if he like giraffes, bro. That I'm not interested in that. You saying that you saying that like I care about that. Like that doesn't. I'm like I say, I'm not here to judge him from that perspective. We're talking about the case. We're not talking about what he likes. You know what I mean? He likes a lot of things according to Cassie. Yeah, that doesn't. We don't care about whether he could like giraffes. You know what I mean? None of that. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. She's testifying to it. The guy Daniel Phillips testified to it that wasn't the first time when he had actually witnessed it himself. So we're not, like I said, Leroy, you're coming over here with the premise that somebody is trying to absolve Diddy of his responsibilities and his accountability. His lawyer started off with the opening argument saying, yes, he's an abusive guy. Yes, he did what he did, and that was wrong. Yes, as we all seen that, he should have been locked up for that. Cassie was asked by the young Mr. Flores, the security guard, whether she wanted to call the police. She said no. You can't come in here and because we're having a conversation about something that's publicly available and try to blame us for anything that Cassie did or didn't do. That's her responsibility. Now, I don't know if he's innocent or not, Mr. Leroy Miles, but you coming in here with these bogus talking points, right? You know what I mean? As if we're novices to this game. We understand that you work in the legal field, like I said. But once again, at the end of the day, facts are facts, lies are lies, right? And the truth is who want to believe it. Right? Mr. Miles, I asked you a question. I asked you whose decision was it to allow baby oil to be poured on themselves? Whose decision was it to let sex male workers be with them in an intimate way? Whose decision was it to allow candle wax to be poured on their body? Was that Diddy's decision, or was that Cassie's decision? If it happened, Cassie, was that whose decision was that happened? What did you say? I didn't hear you. My man, see, that's all I'm saying. You feel what I'm saying, Leroy? Now we talking about just facts. The lawyer in the courtroom, she's basically, when she says that, see, this is the thing about credibility, and Leroy, you know what I'm talking about credibility, right? And holding somebody accountable. When the lawyer says who decision was it, and Cassie says that it was Sean's decision. It was Sean's decision. Like, come on. What are we doing here? You know what I mean? And so that's what I'm talking about. Make it make sense. Don't, as the public, in the sensationalism and the wordplay, now they ask the question, well, who idea was it for the baby oil, for the male sex work? That's Diddy's decision, right? But whose decision was it, right? That was Diddy's idea, should I say. That would be Diddy's idea to involve sex workers, baby oil, the candle wax, and all of these other things, right? That would be Diddy's idea, but it wasn't his decision. It was Cassie's decision. YouTuber, you need attention, YouTuber. Fatima, get YouTuber up out of here, man. Because like I said, we trying to have constructive conversation. Yeah, no, Leroy, I totally understand where you're coming from. She has immunity and not on trial. But like I said, the jury is able to make a decision based on what they're hearing. You understand what I'm saying? And so hopefully they have an attentive jury, and hopefully doing cross-examination, right? They can point out, if they're taking the right notes, they can point out some of these inconsistencies as to what she's saying. And also, like you just said, she has immunity, Leroy. They can say, were you given a deal? Or are you here of your own free will? You know how they do that, right? Oh, so you were given immunity. So other than the government giving you a deal, you would be sitting next to Mr. Combs, correct? Right? And all of the other things that they come about doing that from that perspective. Hey, Carla, do me a favor, put Mr. YouTuber in timeout. Or whatever apparatus they have for that. Like I said, once again, you know what I mean? We're not going to tolerate no disrespect. That's not what we're doing around here. Everybody around here is being respectful. We can talk. We can have a conversation. When you say Drake said that YouTube, he's not going to trial for DV. He's guilty all day. But sex trafficking, no, he's not guilty. Absolutely. Like I said, domestic violence all day, Drake. I totally understand it. Like I said, we seen that clearly. That's clear. Like I said, I think Diddy should have been in jail for that a long time ago. But Cassie refused to call the police at the hotel. Cassie refused to call the police or leave him when the sex worker asked her, hey, why you stay with this guy if he beat on you like that? She told him, according to Daniel Phillips, I'm okay. I'm all right. You know what I mean? Hey, so now all of a sudden, so now hold on. So it's Daniel Phillips' fault that Daniel Phillips didn't call the police? Because see, a lot of people were saying that yesterday. They were saying like, oh, well, why didn't the sex worker dude, when he seen Diddy hit her, why didn't the sex worker dude call the police? Because you know what? So many times, listen, and as we've seen with this, as a prime example, because even after the fact, so many times when even brothers, sisters, cousins, and all of those get in people relationships who they know in their family might have a volatile relationship with somebody and they jump in it, right? The person that they jumping in it on the behalf of go right back to that person who was mistreating them. Tap it in the chat if I'm lying. We're acting like this is playing out because it's a high profile case, right? Every time, right? R Hill, every time. Am I lying? So therefore, yesterday they were blaming the sex worker. Well, why the sex worker didn't call the police? Because guess what? Number one, he coming there, he's doing a job. He ain't coming there to, okay, look, this personal now. I came here to, do what y'all asked me to do, but this personal now, right? And then when he got a chance to talk to Cassie on side of Diddy, and when he said she ran out to him naked when Diddy was hitting on her, he's like, yo, why don't you leave? Like, and she was like, I'm okay, I'm good. So how are you supposed to fight against I'm okay, I'm good? Call the police and tell them what? And when the police get there, she's like, oh no, ain't nothing happened. If she's not willing to do that because she's the person that it happened to, how in the hell can the male sex worker do it? Come on, man. People, like I said, once again, people live in the land of delusion. Some people do, and it's like, come on, you got to be realistic, even if it's not favorable to your point of view. I'm cool with that, right? You know what I mean? One can't be victorious in every argument. Bro D, absolutely, bro D. Like, she's supposed to call the authorities. Like I said, we're not hating on Cassie. We're listening to the information as if we're playing the public jury and listening to the information that's being presented in court and what she's saying, right? We don't hate Cassie. We don't know Cassie personally, right? We just know what has been disseminated to the public. Thank you, Carl. I appreciate you. Yeah, because like I said, Carla, we don't have time for that. Everybody here having a conversation. We grown folks. See what I'm saying? See, amongst grown folks, when we trying to have a conversation, somebody will come in and they'll start with the little antagonistic games. Like, hold on, man. That's why we always say everybody can't go. Everybody not invited. I appreciate that. So yeah, ladies and gentlemen, like I said, once again, I appreciate you guys tuning in and having this conversation with me. Hey, absolutely, Carla. We're not dealing with our feelings. No, yeah, nobody's dealing with. Nobody's mad at nobody in the chat. We over here trying to have grown folks conversations, right? And express our different opinions on why we think that it's what it is, right? You know what I mean? I'm not right about everything I'm saying. I'm not trying to be. I'm just looking at what the prosecution is trying to lay out. And then we're going to see, okay, cool. Upon cross-examination, we're going to see what the defense has to say and how they counter the testimony that Cassie has presented to the court. Or on behalf of the prosecution, if you will. Yeah. Right? So like I said, they emphasizing Sean Combs' involvement. Said the freak offs required 10 large bottles of Johnson's baby oil, Cassie says, not the kind from the 99-cent store, the bogus kind. It had to be Johnson & Johnson's. Cassie said that P. Diddy was very happy with her first freak off. You know what I mean? And like I said, people must understand where the terminology freak off came from. It came from Cassie. Everybody had these, and see, the cold part about the game is everybody had these big freak offs. Like it was 50 people in the room, when they heard the freak offs, you know what I mean? And they may have situations like that, but from what Cassie described, and it was always her, Diddy, and somebody else. And it seemed like it was more her, Diddy with another male than it was her, Diddy, and another female. And Diddy being with another female, it seemed like his thing was just, watching her. Thank you, R. Hill. I appreciate you too, man, for tuning in. Brandon Carter, Black Cash Dreams. Absolutely. So like I said, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to be back tomorrow. We definitely going to be back tomorrow. And talking about this and trying to, keep it live. Like I said, I appreciate each and every one of you guys. Thank you, Carla. Thank you, Fatima. Like I said, more importantly, your boy DELRAY, straight gang.